And that brings us now to the main event of the evening. It's Rosenstrike. It is Shamil Agagiev on the other side. It's the heavyweight main event. And it's a very exciting one. I gotta say, I had a hard time picking this one. I really did. Yeah, I really had a hard time picking this one. Rosenstrike. Let's go through what he's been doing recently. Undefeated. By the way, he was undefeated before that Francis Ngannou fight. Then he got knocked out in 20 seconds, which was the first time I had ever seen Francis Ngannou fight. And I was like, holy shit. That was, at that point, I think that was the craziest KO I had ever seen. And it was like just after I had turned the TV on. I just turned the TV on. And then that was the first fight that came up. And then that happened. And I was like, what the fuck? That was insane. But anyway, enough about that. He beat JDS, Junior Dos Santos, and Augusto Sakai, and Chris Daukaus. I believe those were all finishes as well. I think, don't quote me on that, but I think they were. Or maybe two of them were. But then he also lost to Gunn, he lost to Blades, he lost to Volkov, and he most recently, I believe, lost to Jailton Almeida. Obviously, he was a kickboxer, so his main thing is the striking, huge power, and pretty fast hands for heavyweight. That, of course, would be due to the Glory kickboxing experience. The wrestling, though, is an issue. He has been taken down quite a bit by the grapplers in the division. So, you know, that would be Blades. I think did Gon even get a takedown in there? Almeida, obviously. I think there were a couple other people that took him down pretty easily as well. Does have a hard time with the wrestling. And the defense, honestly, is where it comes down to, just all around. Striking defense and wrestling defense. He's been getting hit and finished a lot recently. And again, like I said, takedown defense, submission defense. He's been submitted here and there too. So all around the defense, bit of an issue. But he's a slight underdog, plus 125. And that's probably because the next guy, Shamil Agagiev, a bit of a mystery. A bit of a mystery. We really do not know how good this guy is. He is undefeated. But he's only, I believe, had 2 fights in the UFC. Maybe even just, it might have just been the one fight. And that was against Martin Budai. And that was it. So we really don't actually know how good he is at all. So I definitely see why these odds are so close. Budai, by the way, one of the most dangerous strikers who's unranked, I think, because there's not a whole lot of great talent outside of the top 15 at heavyweight. Budai is kind of one of those guys where it's like, okay, you know, I don't know if you're going to be making the top 15, but you're still dangerous for sure and somebody to watch out for. And honestly, Gagiev kind of just walked through him. Like, it really was not even difficult. It seemed like he walked him down the whole time, pieced him up. It wasn't even a one-punch knockout. He just pieced him up by hitting him like 20, 30 times. Dropped him a couple of times, stumbled him all over the place. I mean, it really just was not close until he couldn't take it anymore and the ref stopped it. And a pretty high pace, I gotta say, for heavyweight. And that's maybe why, the boxing is what I should have said. That was his boxing. He doesn't really have kicks, really just the hands. And of course, he is Dagestani, so we know he also has the wrestling as well. He does have some good wrestling. He does have some good submissions. But the boxing is also very, very dangerous. The interesting part about it, though, and that's why I put a question mark on this, is the cardio. Because the broadcasters kept talking about his cardio. I personally didn't really see a whole lot of problems, but they kept mentioning it, so maybe they saw something that I didn't. I didn't think it was that bad. I don't really know, but I mean, he's undefeated, and he does have a decision win in there. So I don't know if his cardio is bad or not, but if they say it is, I've got to at least write it down there. And I mean, maybe he did slow down a bit in the last fight against Budai, but he still got a KO. And he also really kept a super high pace for that first round. So it would even kind of make sense that he slowed down a little bit during that fight. So I don't really know if he has bad cardio or not. I'm just kind of going with what they're saying. And maybe he does gas himself out if he can't get a finish in the first round or second round against Rosenstrike. Maybe he does have bad cardio. I don't know. But I have not seen that on tape yet. So I've got to keep the question mark in there. And he's at minus 163. So he is a slight favorite right now as it stands. As it stands right now. So who am I giving the edge? I got to be honest. If this were not the main event, I would have just called this even and called it a night. But I made a promise to myself after the first week. I was like, it's kind of boring that I said that the main event was even. So I've made a promise to myself that I will always, always give a pick for the main event. I have to make a pick for the main event. So that means I will be making a pick here. And just so you know from now on, if it's a main event, I will be giving an edge every single time. Even if, like this one, I do think that it's very, very close. So, that being said, who do I think is going to get it? Who is going to get the edge? Rosenstrike could get a KO here. Again, we don't know how good Gaziev is defensively. We just haven't seen him fight enough yet, especially after 2 rounds. Nobody knows how he's going to be against somebody this good 2 rounds in. We literally have no idea. And he has slowed down before. So does he just slow down and then fall apart? Is he going to get knocked out because he slows down too much? Or is he going to get just outpointed to a decision because he gets slowed down too much? We just don't know. Gaziev could also just wrestle him to win a few rounds. He wins 3 rounds with the wrestling, with the control, gets the decision win, and that's it. Or he could maybe even get a TKO. He could get a TKO on the ground, gets some takedowns, gets a submission maybe. Or he could also just get a TKO or a KO on the feet, because he has done that quite a few times now. He does have some power. He does have fast hands. So I could also see him doing that as well, which is why I'm saying, I'm really 55-45, maybe 60-40 on this. And that is in favor of Gaziev. You got to go with Gaziev on this one, just because of the well-rounded skill set alone. I have to go with him because we've seen Rosenstrike struggle with the wrestling. We've seen Rosenstrike get subbed. That's the direction that I'm going in. That's what I've settled on. Like I said, I do think this is very close, but ultimately I got to give a pick. And that's Gaziev. Oh, and I did have another point here too, which is that Rosenstrike might actually focus too much on the wrestling of Gaziev. So he's focusing too much on shutting down takedowns and looking for takedowns and all that he then makes a mistake and gets beat with the hands. Because we've seen that before. They're looking for the takedown. Is he gonna shoot? Is he not? And then they get knocked out. I could very much easily see that happening in this fight. So that's another concern as well. Or, or maybe he's just still not that great at wrestling and then he just gets taken down and submitted. There's also a potential of that too. There's just way more ways for Gaziev to win. I still think it's 60-40. I'm super on the fence about it, but I gotta make the pick and I'm going with Gaziev on this one.